to welcome first Lieutenant Colonel Jason-Strickland. He's the Chief of the Army's GEOINT Office within the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Previously, he served as a critical infrastructure protection planner at the U.S. NORTHCOM. In that position, he participated in 6 special security events and catastrophic response for Hurricanes Gustav, Ike in the fall of 2008. Jason?
Good afternoon. For those of you who see me in uniform and our other brother in uniform here, you notice there's something different about our uniforms. Mine's blue up here on the shoulder boards. Everybody else is red, and there's a distinction there. That's because they're engineer officers and I'm an intelligence officer. I'm very fond of my intelligence brethren, though, because I work closely with them in my current occupation at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, where we combine the geospatial aspect, which is our engineer brethren within the Army, and the intelligence aspect, to kind of bring those two together. So I'm fond of what they do, and I appreciate the efforts that they have there. Another big difference is I do not have a technical degree like they probably do. I'm a liberal arts major, but needless to say, I'm involved with critical infrastructure protection. That's kind of what I want to share with you here today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the job that I had while I was at NORTHCOM. That's the basis of my presentation, not my current position, but what I did while I was there, which I left there in the fall of last year, and some of the knowledge and skill sets there. And I noticed a lot of times when we've been talking about critical infrastructure protection, we're talking the difference between the left of boom and the right of boom, or when a catastrophic event happens, what do we do in reaction to that? And that's what I want to share on how we've done some actions within the Department of Defense. Because so much of what we're doing is the preparation and the mitigation, but we also need to look at the response and the remediation. So, and just so you're aware, under the National Response Framework, United States Northern Command it's a supporting agency in every single emergency support function. And that's important to know for incidents here in the United States, that the DoD supports all those incidents, and if something were to happen, the lead agency obviously takes the lead, but their efforts and the firepower, if you will, the people, the resources, the unique assets that the DoD has is important to share with our brethren. So here's a duty description of some of the things that I was involved with. NORTHCOM has 2 primary missions. First, they were formed for a homeland defense mission, but they're also formed to do this activity called Defense Support of Civil Authorities, or TISP. While the primary basis for NORTHCOM's existence was homeland defense because of 9/11, the overwhelming majority of the activities that they spend their time doing are DISP-related events, supporting at different echelons, in different capabilities, all the events that are happening within the states and territories that are part of the AOR. So these are some of the things that I did. Deploy is kind of a unique word here within the Army. Usually don't deploy within the United States, but that was the term that we used to go to wherever the incident was and respond, whether it's as during the introduction, hurricanes, Gustav, Ike, or Anna, those sorts of things. I would also prepare assessments as necessary on situations that were coming up, and if it was in a technical presentation as well, talk about those sorts of things. And then the last bullet up there, you see closely coordinate with DoD. Now, that might seem strange that someone within DoD has to coordinate with DoD, but that's the facts. Even within DoD, we have a wide variety of organizations and just this web of groups that have to work together to ensure that our critical infrastructure is maintained, and then when we react to what's happened, that we do that closely. So I coordinate with DoD and then with DHS as well, and on all levels, state, local, federal response efforts. But again, primarily my purpose was to ensure that DOT equities were represented in the aftermath of a catastrophic event. So, next slide. So where did I do some of this stuff? Well, really, wherever necessary. I spent the overwhelming majority of my time working at the National Infrastructure Coordinating Center. Has anybody heard of the National Infrastructure Coordinating Centers? Because you have a voice at the NIC, they call it. That's where they bring together liaison support from a wide variety of organizations, and they represent those different sectors. So, for example, during one incident, during an exercise, the banking sector had a liaison there, and they were able to come on board after a hurricane during this exercise and say, hey, well, we've seen some transactions occurring in the place where the hurricane just happened. That was an indicator that there was power in the area and that there was some activity going on. Now, it's kind of anecdotal, but the fact that the banking sector can provide us, the DOD, or whomever, the emergency, the first responders, the response plane with information was very beneficial. And so that's one of the places I worked and I interacted as the Department of Defense liaison with all these other sectors at the DHS Center. So during the hurricanes that came through, during the State of the Union address or the presidential inauguration, I would post there in the event that something were to happen. So having a standing task force ready to go should there be some kind of a catastrophic event, and we would have a military task force ready to go. And we were in place with all of the other folks, in whether it's the Joint Field Office or the standing federal response efforts over there. Another location that's listed up there is Joint Task Force, kind of fill in the blank, because we participated in a lot of different joint task forces at a variety of levels, whether it's the National Guard Task Force for the G20 event when we brought all the world leaders together for the economic summit in Pittsburgh a few years ago, or it was Joint Task Force Democratic National Convention in Denver, Colorado. The fact is, we brought these folks together and we had a plan in place should there be some kind of event that would affect the activities that are going on there. And I was able to represent DOD equities with the folks that were there, and I'll share a little bit more about that later. Another place you can see up here is the DHS Incident Management Cell, which is also closely linked with the National Infrastructure Coordinating Center. As a matter of fact, they come from the same organization within DHS, the Office of Infrastructure Protection. So it's beneficial to be able to work with those folks there, and at different opportunities I found myself giving a presentation to the Assistant Secretary for Infrastructure Protection on what was happening with regards to DOD efforts. And again, it's kind of a liaison role, but able to share with him what's the activities that are going on. And then the various Joint Force Headquarters, National Capital Region, or Joint Task Force Alaska, dealing with everything from an event in the National Capital Region or ballistic missile efforts and our ballistic missiles that we have ready to go up in Alaska. Next slide. So a variety of projects that I worked on. You're going to hear some more about the Defense Critical Infrastructure Program, so I'm not going to dive into that. But that was one of the things that, as a critical infrastructure protection planner, I need to know. There's not very many of these positions in the military, but yet we're having a whole symposium talking about this issue because it is important and it's an emerging kind of role. The bill that I was in was a joint position for an Army officer, and so we had to be able to have the kind of information. So I need to know what is the D7, what does it do, purposes, and those sorts of things, and be able to share that with the people that I'm interacting with at DHS, at the state level, at that person from the Red Cross who's a part of the Joint Field Office. So they want to know what's happening and why is this important to us. Another key thing that needs to happen is you have to be able to operate within a fusion cell or a fusion center. It's been emphasized several times. Both of these gentlemen mentioned it. Interagency is so critical, and I think the military, the Army, is beginning to recognize that more and more, how we are a part of the interagency effort. One of the phrases that General Renuart, who was the commander of NORTHCOM, kind of passed on to us over and over again was lead from the middle. So we know as in the Army, we kind of want to come in and take control and say, here's how it's going to be done, and I'm a commanding officer, and this and that. But it's important that we understand that we can provide that leadership while allowing someone else to be the actual leader of the event. Whether it's that National Guard organization, whether it's the federal response, or using incident command system where down at the local level, they're the ones kind of heading the effort and deciding the priorities and working together. So that was an important part. And then we just helped develop a series of contingency plans, everything from the bird flu down to a chemical biological event, and having plans in place and understand what is the impact when this happens to the DOD and how are we going to respond to this, what kinds of efforts are we going to take to remediate what's happening.